Okay, so in the first part of the video, we took apart the PC. We took the graphics card out, repasted the processor, put an exhaust fan in it, and that's the recap. So now, in the second part of the video, we're going to be taking apart this beautiful graphics card. We're not going to be replacing the fans or anything like that, just repasting it today. So we're actually going to want to start in the back here. And I have opened this card once before. Know that once you take it apart, it will most likely void your warranty. That's why the sticker's broken here. So if you have a new card and you bought it yourself, it's best not to take it apart. It's best to avoid that at all costs, so you don't have to pay for any damages caused, especially if there's a warranty. So there's no warranty on this card, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be taking it apart. But we're going to start with these 4 screws. And usually, a graphics card will come apart when you take apart the screws holding on the cooler. So this entire assembly actually is separate from the back half. So when you take these 4 screws out, it should just pop off. If it doesn't, these screws will probably be next over here. But usually, all you have to worry about is these 4 screws.
Want to zoom in on them?
Sure, if you like. Well, I grab a smaller Phillips here. Looks like some pretty small ones.
There's 4 screws there.
And I had a 1070 Founders Edition before this, and it was awful to take apart.
I actually took it apart the first time, and it was terrible. It was grueling.
Yep, it was not very fun. There's like 4,000 screws you have to take apart to get the back off. But I also had to replace the fan on that. That's probably why it was so terrible to take apart. But
I thought I had gotten the whole thing apart, and then Jacob got home and was like, that is not all of it.
yeah, but anyway, back to this one. So I think it should come apart now. Remember how I said you gotta gently just move it back and forth here. Let's see. Yeah, it feels pretty solid. So let's take a look at the end here. So I'm just looking along here to see where it could be connected still. So yep, it was those 2 screws I was wrong. So we're going to take these 2 apart on the end here. I believe that's it, but we might have to take some screws off this shroud over here. You're just going to take it nice and slow. Take as few screws as possible, because it's every screw you take out is a higher chance you'll forget one of them. So that should be loose now, but I could be wrong. Just kind of gently twisting it back and forth, pulling on it a little bit. So now it looks like we're going to have to take off these 4 as well. So it appears like they put these nice little silver rings around all the ones you have to take apart. We probably should have paid attention to that. Okay. Oh no, it's a pretty well built card. I like it. There it goes. Just like that. So this clip here is actually the most difficult part. I do remember that from a different one, and it looks like whoever took this one apart broke half of the clip there. Every graphics card is going to have a different clip, like they're annoying. But this one, it looks like you just lift up this. Tab, yeah, sure. You lift up that tab over there, and then you just pull straight out. So I'm going to attempt that. You might not be able to see too well what's going on.
We can see surprisingly well what's going on.
Okay, so I'm actually going to need a different tool here. I'm going to attempt. Oh, I just got that on my finger. Okay, hold on. Alright, flip this over. I'll try to use this. I know it's not for that. I don't actually know what this tool is for, but this is what I'm going to use it for. Hopefully, without breaking it. Because it does look quite fragile. Just going to gently try to get under it and just kind of. There it goes. Yeah, I don't like that clip style at all, but it does prevent the fan assembly from coming off. Okay, and we're going to show you the underside here. This is what the cooler looks like. As you can see, it's a pretty good cooler. It's nickel plated, I believe. Which is pretty good, and it looks like these thermal pads are still pretty great. I could use a little bit of rejuvenating on that one that was torn there. But overall, it looks pretty good. And it is worth noting, you should check your VRM and stuff, your power delivery, for thermal pads that you missed. Because you want them all to go back where they were. So, make sure when you take it apart, you look exactly where they were as you take it apart, to ensure they go back in the same place, because it's probably important. So it looks like the thermal paste actually got around the processor a little too much here. But, I mean, that could have been from too much heat. It could be any number of things here, so we'll just kind of try to make sure we mop up most of it. Tissue here. Throw these on. Start dirtying up our table here. I'm going to be really delicate in this part. Try not to rock back and forth or anything crazy, because there's actually a lot of really tiny parts on there. I'm kind of just dabbing here, kind of pulling up most of the thermal paste. Luckily, this is all non-conductive. If you were using liquid metal or something and it did this, it would probably destroy it. Clean this up a little better here. Okay, we'll come back when this is completely cleaned off here. Okay, now we're on to the alcohol part. I've got it pretty well cleaned up here. Just gently rub some alcohol on there. No need to go crazy with it. There we go, and you can kind of see it. I'm not sure if you saw it, but the alcohol all evaporating there. I'm going to just polish it up a little bit. There we go. Now, do a little bit of thermal paste here. in here. Okay. So on the graphics card you have to be really gentle, because you're not going to need much, like, at all. Probably. That might even be too much there. Just because how small they are, really. So I'm going to try to spread that a little bit all the way out here. Hopefully I don't make too much of a mess of it. It's not as neat as it could be, but overall it's decent. Okay, I'll come back when it's the rest of the way done here. Okay, we got it pretty well spread out here. Just remember, you really don't need much at all for this to work well. So, I should have cleaned off the oven first before I put it on there, but it should be fine for now. We'll do this quickly. Let's see here. The cameraman left me, so I'm doing this for myself here. Okay, focus. So now we're going to clean off the good old heatsink. Which this is a pretty good heatsink. I'm pretty sure this is all nickel plated, but I could be wrong. It might just be aluminum. But I was under the impression that it is, in fact, nickel. I will put a something in the description or over the video saying whether it is or not. Just gonna scrub this off pretty good here. Some alcohol. Now alcohol is good because in my understanding it cleans off all the old stuff so that the new stuff can seat directly to the heatsink without anything interfering, because like Kryonaut is quite a bit less thermal, I don't know however you want to say it, thermal resistance, that's it. I don't know why I couldn't think of that, brain fart. But it's got quite a bit less thermal resistance than Kryonaut. So having Kryonaut in between here and the Kryonaut really can impede it quite a bit. So it's good to get that nice and clean. I'm going to do one more thing, alcohol on here. Just to make sure it's good, because this graphics card does tend to run a little bit hot, so I want to make sure it's really good and clean here. See how much was still on there? There we go. It's pretty good and clean here. This over here. I'll see you back when I've got it all set up and ready to go. Okay, so now we're just gonna reconnect this. It just slides straight back in there. Okay, so I've got it all repasted. You can kind of see it in there. We're gonna shove this on there and hopefully get it perfectly straight. Hopefully. So this one, luckily, has a couple little metal posts that are going to help me line it up. Okay, so now, remember the star pattern, just like changing a tire. this one lightly, not all the way. And this one, once again, lightly, not all the way. You can kind of hear those. That's not the right one. That one's a little sizable. Remember, lightly, not all the way, and you can kind of hear those springs compressing. I don't know if I said that already. These have springs on them to get the right pressure down on that heat sink. So this one will tighten all the way, and it should stop. Most graphics cards will only go so far. You can't over tighten them. Now I wouldn't test that theory, but usually they do stop. And it should be even pressure until you get to it's really hard, and then stop. Don't go any farther. There we go. Now we can start working with these really tiny screws now. I like to set them all in there and then go, but if you're forgetful, you might want to just set the ones you're tightening in so that you don't forget to tighten down any screws. But you'll know in a hurry when you turn it around and they all fall out. These don't have to be done in any particular pattern, but you can if you want to. And I wouldn't tighten these down too crazy tight because they are pretty thin threads. It's probably pretty easy to strip those out. Alright, there we go. All tightened back down. Repasted. It's good to go. I'll bring you back when we're putting it in the computer. Okay, we got the computer back. We're going to throw the graphics card in. You got to be really careful to line up your PCI slot. Make sure it's straight on there.
Then we're trying to get a view of that slot.
That's fine. And make sure your clicker clicks. There's a lock down here if you can see it. See it? You can't. Try here. Maybe. There's a clicker here. Yeah, we can see it. When you snap it down, it'll snap up like that, and that's how you know it's locked in there. You want to make sure that happens, otherwise you're not actually attached. And now we'll put our screws in. These help to stabilize the card a lot, so it's vital that you get these all the way in there. If I remember correctly, this bottom one doesn't like to go in quite so well. So grab my other screwdriver here. I'll put it in the top first and see if it lines it up a little bit better. But make sure you're careful not to cross thread these, because it really sucks when that happens. There we go, we're all tightened up. Now we're going to connect our connectors. And on my power supply, these two pins go on the left side, like that. And so I'm going to start with this one. To the top here. Hopefully without damaging anything. side around. You want those two little grabbers on top so when you press it down, it locks the whole thing into place here. Because you don't want your power cables coming undone after you get it in there. So, there you go. It's reinstalled. I've got Atlas here to hold it up. And that's how I do it. So there you go. Thank you for watching our two-part series here on graphics cards and computer repasting.